Oh. All right, we are live. Hey, thank you for joining us on X Garage today. My name is Jake the Snake. So today we got Connor on today, and I'm really excited about this. I've been diving into TikTok lately and having fun over there. And Connor has been criticizing some of my argumentation as an atheist, and so we decided to have some fun today. And he's kind of made up a religion to kind of combat what I have been saying. So what we're going to be doing is I'll ask him general stuff like what's the name of this religion, what's the name of the deity, kind of basic theology, how do these things account for the preconditions of intelligibility, those kinds of questions. But before we get there, I do want to kind of learn a little bit more about Connor, who you are. You said you're about 21 years old.
21, yeah.
Okay. So are you in college? Are you just graduated, or what do you do?
I'm in college. I kind of took this semester off, so I'll be going back to Radford next semester.
Cool.
I do plan on studying philosophy, majoring in it. I've decided recently that I think I'm going to try to go for a PhD in it.
Right on.
For right now, I'm not like an expert on any of this. So, and I'm not saying this to like lower my standards, like expectations. I'm just saying I'm not claiming to like be a whole expert on any of this. The road behind me is significantly shorter than the road ahead of me. So I still got a long way to go, but I'm kind of just sorting my way through it and trying to learn all kinds of different perspectives.
Yeah, fair enough, man. And just so you get a little bit of a picture of me, I have never done anything in philosophy. I like listening to a bunch of things. I'm actually I got 2 degrees in music, so that's it's super helpful. And I always glean from my
Yeah, I've seen you playing your guitar on.
I have a degree in ethnomusicology, which is a big fancy word for I like instruments that I have never seen before. And then I got a degree in music composition after that. And then now I'm a real estate agent, so I have tons of fun. So yeah, man. So let's just get right into this. I don't think this is going to be a super long conversation. So what I was telling Connor is that I'm going to try to learn as much about this religion as I can, and then possibly do a follow-up video doing a little bit more detailed analysis. But I'll give some of my on-the-fly notes as well. So what happened was I was on TikTok and I gave just the basic opening to presuppositionalism, that you can't, without the Christian God, without presuming the Christian God, then you don't have the basis for intelligibility. Then Connor duetted me, which in TikTok you're able to give a rebuttal on somebody else's video kind of on the fly, which is really cool.
And then you duetted my duet.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
And then he said, I believe in a God named omnibenevolent. This is a way to see if you can create something that is equivalent to the Christian God.
So I just want to point out the video I was responding to. You said it was like, why do I believe the Christian God is real? Because of the impossibility of the contrary. So that was what I was responding to.
Yes, so, perfect.
It was that particular thing.
Love it. Which it should be said that in itself is not a proof. That is a statement that needs to be given more behind. So, but anyway, so I'm going to read what he wrote and go from there. So Connor wrote, I believe in a God named omnibenevolent. She created the laws of morality, logic, and transcendental facts of reality. She has never committed genocide, forced someone to sacrifice their child to test their loyalty, or gambled with Satan over a man's life. She views everything that breathes equally and doesn't punish people for rejecting her for any thought crime. She forgives even the dead and gives them infinite amount of opportunities to repent. Even in the afterlife, there is no hell. There is only paradise for all life, down to the smallest cell. No living thing is left behind. They are free to leave this paradise at any time. Okay, so that's
there's 4 more.
Oh, did I not get all of it? Hold on.
Well, that was one sticker.
Well, let me go back to that. Do you remember what you said? I thought that was it after that.
I said, how do I know this God exists? Because of the impossibility of the contrary. Right. Yeah.
But was there any more to that religion that you wrote out that I missed?
So this isn't just like a religion I made up just for the point of this. I've had this kind of thing in mind for a while, and so I have to say I'm not like kind of like an ordinary atheist in that a lot of atheists are very confident that there is no God. I'd say about 60%. And I have never met an atheist. I mean, I have met a few, but most atheists aren't saying 100% there's no God. But a lot of them are very confident. I'd say I'm only 60% confident there's no God. Okay. And I'd say about 60% of me is atheist, and the other 40% is actually like a general theist. So the other 40%, I believe if there is a God, it's all religions would still be wrong. And this God that I have envisioned is what I believe is omnibenevolent. And I believe that if there is a God, this is the God that exists. So I've kind of just like constructed my idea of what it would mean to be all good. This religion was kind of born when I was in my first year of college, after we were learning about the problem of evil, and I was still a Christian at this point. But I was having trouble like dealing with the problem of evil because it's only a problem for like a God that's all good. And one of the main parts of it was, if God is omnibenevolent, he would only create the best world possible, the best reality possible. So, and given what we know about this world, all the terrible things and disasters that happen on this earth, how would this be the best possible reality God could have created? And that would have to involve everyone getting something back in the afterlife. So the religion I created, I believe, solves the problem of evil. And I don't think that any other possible religion that exists solves the problem of evil the way mine does. So I do plan on later in my life writing a book on it. Gonna name it Omnibenevolent. It's just what I believe that all good would actually be.
Cool. So I actually do agree that if God is omnibenevolent, that in the case of all possible worlds, this has to be the best possible scenario.
He could have made it a little better.
What's that? But better for what though?
There can't be like a better reality, right?
I agree. There cannot be a better reality. Okay, so let's start with the fundamentals. So, give us just a name. Let's be a little creative, though.
My name or the name of the
name of the religion? Give me the name of the religion.
Zortinianism.
Zortinianism.
Yeah.
Okay,
and,
cool.
And this is kind of like a random name I thought of. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
but
okay. Well, is there a made up epistemology or etymology with that?
No.
Okay. So all religions have something that they're trying to accomplish, that there's an issue that they're trying to solve. Is there something that this religion is trying to solve?
That's something I got to think about for a second. Okay. Yeah, because I know what you mean. Like even in Buddhism, even in atheistic religions, they have something they're trying to solve. So I guess what my religion, I don't like the Zortinianism. It's called omnibenevolentism.
This is just so academic, though, man. I want to like world build here.
Oh yeah. I think what my religion is trying to solve is people's idea of what all good is. Because I think the first step to changing the world is to change people's idea of what omnibenevolent is, of what it means to be all good. Because it's impossible to be all good. I'm sure you would agree to that because you believe everyone's a sinner, right? So it's impossible to be perfect. But
except for Christ, but yeah.
Yeah, except for Jesus in your worldview. But my religion, when it does, we all have a different idea of perfect. And I believe people have the wrong view of what perfect is. And if we have a kind of like a goal of perfect, then we can at least try to go towards it. So my religion is trying to set up that goalpost, that path. So
So you got a goalpost. So in that sense, what is the hamartiology of this system? So what is so that's the study of sin. What is is there a sinful state of man? Can you talk about that?
Well, I don't believe in sin in the way that you do.
So in this system, how would you categorize a misstep, a mistake, or
like immoral acts? Is that what you mean?
Yes, immoral acts.
Yeah. So an immoral act would be one that causes suffering to someone else. It would be one that is harmful to someone else, and I know like there's a lot of problems that would arise to this for atheists. I don't think they're necessarily like defeating problems because I think there are answers to them. But like I said, I'm not going to be arguing on behalf of atheism today. Sure. So if you say why is it wrong for someone to suffer, I can just say because my God says so.
Okay, so is this a utilitarian understanding? Like, is it okay to cause harm if it's for the better good, or in self-defense, or can you kind of parse that out a little bit?
Is it okay to cause harm for the greater good? Well, this is something that I think we all have trouble with. These are moral questions. Like, is it okay to steal a loaf of bread for your family? It's the kind of dilemmas that we all have issues with, and I don't think that any religion has an answer to it. And I would include my religion that it can't answer every moral problem, although my God can, and He knows the answer. She knows the answers to these problems. Well, we don't. So if we ever meet my God, she will tell us what was the right thing to do in that situation. And I like to flip that around to just out of curiosity. What would your view be on that in Christianity? Is it okay for people to suffer for the greater good in your worldview?
In terms of self-inflicted suffering, yes. In terms of external, I'd say no. So I don't think. Yeah, if it was causing harm to somebody else for the greater good.
It's kind of like that question, like the train car.
Yeah.
If the train car is going on two tracks and there's one person on one track.
The trolley problem.
Yeah, the trolley problem.
That is a difficult one. I don't think that there is always a clear cut answer. Which
it's not really black and white, is it?
Yeah. Because there's always a wrench you can throw in it. One person on right side, five on the other, but in the five on the other, Hitler's there or something like that.
Or here's a better one. Like if there's 5 sick people dying in a hospital, do you kill an unconsenting person in the waiting room and take their organs to save them? And that's the only that's like one of those things that it seems to us that would be the wrong choice. That would be immoral because the person is not consenting to it, although it would still lead to the greater good. So it would still be immoral, though. I think most of us would agree that killing an unconsenting person would be immoral.
Right, and I think that would go against the Ten Commandments. That'd be stealing, and killing. So anyway, okay. So does that extend any beyond? So as far as an amoral act, does that go beyond just an individual or just suffering? Is lying wrong? Let's say.
Is lying wrong? Yes, because it could cause future suffering. And have you heard of Kantian ethics?
Mm-hmm.
So I think my religion would apply some Kantian ethics. So if you lie, then if everyone was to lie, then the world would fall apart, right? Because we would not be able to trust each other. So I kind of apply some of my the categorical imperative from Kant in with my religion. If you could will something to be a universal truth, then do it. If you can't, then don't. So if I was to lie, if I was to key someone's car, right, I would have to be able to will that everyone in the world keys a car. And obviously that would not be a good thing. So I shouldn't do it. And I think that's kind of like the main purpose that I use Kant in for my religion.
Okay. What if the car and the key were the only means of communication? and you had to warn somebody something on a car.
Well, then those factors would have to apply to everyone, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to key the car to get to something, then it would be the same situation when you're willing it for the whole world. So everyone in the world in that situation would have to get to that thing. So it would just apply to everyone.
Okay, cool. Anything is in terms of angelology or demonology that we should be aware of?
Demonology, like demons?
Yeah.
No demons.
No demons. Okay. So no fallen spiritual entities.
No.
Okay. And then what about extra spirits? So spiritual realm beyond God.
Like ghosts?
Yeah, like ghosts or what typically people call as angels.
So this might be a little trailing off to what you just asked. It kind of relates. So in my worldview, every living being gets into heaven, and if they screw up, right? If they do something wrong, they're sent to a medium where it isn't torture. They're not in pain, but they're not with the creator either. They just make it whatever they want to make it, but they can't be in divine creation with my God because they messed up. They broke the rules. And then they can get back in once they've changed, once they become better. Once they correct themselves, they can get back into paradise. So I don't know, that might be a little off of what you asked, but
maybe rephrase that. Let me try to get a little better idea of what you said.
So can you go back to what you asked first?
Well, first I was asking about what is the angel like? Is there any external beings that are non-human, non-God?
Oh, so I really went off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, there aren't. It's only the God is the only supernatural entity.
Okay.
Unless you consider people in the afterlife to be supernatural, but which you could.
Okay. And then I'll get more into that later. So I wanted to clarify. So human condition. So there's not really a fallen state per se, but they're like, what is there anything that separates man from God currently?
What separates man from God currently is our lack of understanding of what God is supposed to be, of what omnibenevolent is.
Okay. Is there any sort of Genesis story that we should be aware of?
Oh, like origin story?
Mm-hmm.
He created the universe.
She,
you're right. I get confused because I'm always talking about the Christian or Muslim God.
Well, just out of curiosity, is there a reason you picked the pronoun she?
It's not really a gender. I don't believe that God would be a male or female.
Correct.
I just kind of do it because to counter the years of like misogyny of using he for a male God. And I'm not like a feminist. I think the feminist movement of today is terrible, but I'm not. I don't. I just think it's. I think that it's deserving that we give a God a she pronoun after all the time that it's been a he, and I don't see any reason why it would be a he over a she. Just like I don't see a reason why it would be a she over a he. But that's the way it's been for so long. So I feel like at least. The girls deserve one, right?
So more of a cultural counter.
It's not really a male or female though. It's non-gender.
Okay. Not like
I just feel weird calling it an it, you know?
Yeah.
Sounds like kind of like a demon when you call it an it.
Yeah. Not quite like the only recent deities I can think of that are female or given a female pronoun or like in, fiction. Yeah, or like I was thinking Zelda in particular.
Athena or Hera, a lot of the Greek gods.
Yeah.
Also, Hinduism has a lot of them too. But.
Okay, so walk me through the ins and outs of. Oh, and I want to mention. So one of the things that you said in the initial duet was that you have an ancient book. That would probably be one of the bigger complaints I have, is that in the way it's set up right now, there is nothing I can hold. So for this conversation, let's just say maybe something like, you're the prophet speaking right now. Does that make sense? Because otherwise I don't have it makes it less tangible and less objective.
Well, I made that point to show that if I did have an ancient book that described my God, you would not be convinced. So I'm just using it kind of like as a counter to what people use the Bible. Yeah,
and just an example, like if what I believe is the most effective form of dialogue in this sense is, if I was talking to a Muslim, I'd be going to their source and finding an internal inconsistency using their presuppositions. Because any sort of complaint that I would have, in my opinion, when I make a criticism based on my worldview, an external criticism, you're begging the question, right? Because you're assuming your fundamental presuppositions onto that. When I'm like, if I was to say, based on the Bible, I have a hard time thinking of an example, but I think you get what I mean.
I think we all do that, though, a little bit. I think when you argue like why you believe in God because God does this and does this, I mean, you would also be begging the question, because you would be assuming that Christianity is true.
Right. No, I mean, we all use circular reasoning at our fundamental beliefs. I'm talking specifically when I'm criticizing another worldview. I want to use their fundamental presuppositions and assume these. Like an example, if I wasn't a Christian and I wanted to criticize Christianity, I think the first one to go to would be try to debunk the New Testament by the Old. That would be an internal critique. So you assume the foundation and then try to find an inconsistency in there.
So what I do is I take things. I start with the presupposition that if a God exists, he would be perfect. And whether that's a presupposition or not, I think we could agree to that. So when I see something in the Bible that isn't perfect, I use that as an argument against the Bible. So I use that to show this is in your religion, and it's clearly messed up, doesn't make sense, it's contradiction, it's flawed. It's clearly
even there, that's begging the question, because you're assuming a definition of perfection that doesn't exist within the biblical text. So you have to assume that.
What do you mean by that? Like I'm assuming that my own definition of imperfect, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So not to get too off tangent, I'd like to save this for another conversation between us, but essentially, like you have to take the Bible as foundational premise. God is good, and then here is the outworking of who God is. So it doesn't make sense to say, well, God did this, therefore God is imperfect, because we've already established God is perfect.
Well, I don't believe that the Christian God exists, so I don't think it's begging the question. I don't start by saying God exists and he does this, so he's wrong. I wouldn't disagree with God. You know what I mean? That would be foolish to disagree with something that's omniscient. I think that the God described in the Bible is not omniscient, is not omnibenevolent. Yeah. So I believe that it's not real.
Yeah, I still think the problem exists, but let's save that for now.
Yeah, because I'm starting to argue on behalf of atheism a little bit. So we said we were going to do that.
If we can maybe come back and do another one of these conversations. Yeah. I'm like
starting to become an atheist again.
Stop it!
For this conversation, I'm not an atheist.
You're losing faith, Connor.
Yeah.
Repent and believe in Zornianism. I love that name. Okay.
Mazort.
Mazorka Blork?
Zort.
Yeah, okay, Zort, yes. So anyway, you're about to spell out the afterlife. Go ahead.
Oh, so you want me to go back into the afterlife?
Yep.
Okay, so here's how it works. When everything dies, all life, we have to account for the fact that life suffers, that there is unnecessary suffering. and this is going to go off into a whole different topic, so I'm not going to go completely into it. But in philosophy, we have what is called unnecessary suffering, and that doesn't include people hurting people or natural disasters, because there's the free will defense and the soul building defense. And unnecessary suffering is something that happens where nothing is around to see it, and there could not possibly be a greater good to it. So from the way my religion accounts for that is, say when an animal burns in the forest all alone, the way that it makes it not unnecessary suffering is that that animal gets to heaven and is replenished for its suffering. It's repaid. So the way I look at it, and this is kind of the analogy I use, if you go all day without eating food, right? You're starving. You're hungry. Well, I'll start it the other way. Mm-hmm. If you've eaten a lot like that day, if you've been snacking on food all day, if you've had like 3 meals and then you have dinner, dinner's not going to be as fulfilling, right? It's not going to taste as good. I mean, you don't really have an appetite. You've been eating all day. You've been replenished all day. It's not going to taste as good. If you have gone all day without eating food and you're starving and you've suffered all day, you get to that dinner and it is fulfilling. It is replenishing, and it makes it all almost worth it. So in my afterlife, you have that sensation of being fulfilled from that dinner, and then it's permanent. You feel that eternally. So you wouldn't have been able to get that sensation if you hadn't suffered on earth, because we know that suffering happens on earth. There's no way around that. So we have to make it work in the afterlife. We have to make sure that it's the absolute perfect reality. Okay. And the way it works in my religion is when everything dies, first of all, nothing is left behind, not even a cell. Not a Hindu, not an atheist, not a Christian. So you're saved in my religion too. But you're in. But when we get to heaven, we are given knowledge about our Creator. Our Creator tells us who she is and everything she has in plan for us. And if we don't like it, we can leave. And there is a medium. And we also can opt out. We can choose to not exist. She gives us choices, which is something I don't think any other religion does. I don't think Christianity does this.
Except The Good Place. Have you seen The Good Place?
I have.
So there it is, man.
Yeah, I love that show. It's funny. But the main thing is that she gives us choices. We can choose annihilationism. We can choose a medium. And we could choose to be with the Creator. But to be with the Creator, you have to understand who she is. You have to understand what it means to be omnibenevolent. You don't have to be omnibenevolent yourself, but you can't hurt other people, and you have to know what it means to be omnibenevolent. And if you break the rules, you have to be separated. Now, she's omniscient, so she knows when we refill our understanding. So our punishment is not eternal. Its crime is relative to the crime committed. If the crime is severe, it's a longer time. If it's less severe, it's a shorter time. But nothing is eternal, except for the kingdom, in paradise, and of course you can choose to opt out. So what you cannot choose is to be tortured in pain. I don't think anyone would choose that anyway, but you can't choose to be. I don't think that you believe in hell to be actual torture. Most Christians don't. But what you can't choose is suffering. She does not allow you to suffer in the afterlife, only in your life on earth. So that's kind of like a general overview of my afterlife system.
Okay. That question, but I lost it.
Just out of curiosity. So I've noticed when arguing with like apologetics, there have been 3 answers to me when I ask them what hell is. Mm-hmm. Right. So one of them is annihilationism. Mm-hmm. People think hell is just not existing. One of them is actual burning and torture. And then the most common one I see with like experience apologetics is a suffering through separation from God. So you're conscious, but you're separated from God. So those are kind of the 3 answers I've gotten to that. So I just out of curiosity, which one do you kind of align with?
I heard this once, and I think it fits. Eternal conscious torment, but I think that
Mhm.
I'm at this point. I'm not quite yet to identify it being a burning per se. But that is like the separation from God is the point at which all good things are connected to him.
Mhm.
So a separation from him wouldn't be enjoyable, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I don't think that those in hell want to be with the God anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's an
Um,
interesting point, and I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no, that's basically where I was.
That's an interesting point that you bring up. How you and I just made a video of this recently, like a few
Mhm.
days ago. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I think it's premature to say that people to guarantee what people will desire, especially for all of eternity. And I made a video saying I want to be with Jesus
I
right
just see
now.
that one.
You saw that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to be with Jesus. I just don't believe he exists. I mean, I believe he exists as a real person. As a person, I don't believe the Christian God is real. But if I want to be with him now, why would I not want to be with him when I get to hell? You see what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll give a quick answer, and then we'll get back to this. Part of it is because all good desires stem from God. So for you to even have a good coherent desire needs to be grounded by him. Any bad desire that you would have had, if it, like, for example, so when Joseph thrown in the pit, his brothers were talking about killing him. They would have killed him unless God didn't suppress their evil desires.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, granted them the opportunity to still do something evil, but still worked out for the better good for him to be sold. So that's why at the end of that story, Joseph was able to say, this was done for, by you it was done for evil, but to God it was good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when people are, that's where I'll leave it for now. But that's generally what I think.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to let us go off too off topic, but
yeah. So give me one more fun factoid. What's the name of God in this?
The name of God is omnibenevolent.
Oh, really? That's so academic, man. I thought you were going to give me something like Zort.
No. Okay. Evolutionism doesn't mean anything. That irrelevant name.
Cool. So I'm gonna give kind of a single retort. I'm gonna let you kind of come back at it, and then I'm gonna just leave it as much as I can, because I want to leave as much as I can for an open response by after thinking about it for a bit and getting more information from you. But I don't want to just leave it at not giving anything back, so that way you don't have a chance to defend the position. By the way, do you have a YouTube channel or anything else other than TikTok?
Nope.
Okay.
TikTok's the only thing I have.
Awesome. So where can people find you on TikTok?
Where can people find me on TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
So is my name posted on? Yeah, that's just my first name. So it's Connor Prosser, Connor underscore Prosser. You see how it's Connor is spelled. Prosser is spelled Prosser. So just Connor, all lowercase, underscore Prosser.
Connor Prosser.
And then the profile picture is a little symbol of a circle with like kind of like a black symbol.
Oh, wait, that's wrong. I put at Connor Prosser. At Connor underscore Prosser.
Yeah.
That's what I put. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you search it on TikTok.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so God is omnibenevolent. Already asked why the female pronoun. Let's start crossing these off. So you said, so this God created the morals, logic, and he
transcendental facts of reality. Yeah.
Right. Can you give me anything about how this is demonstrated?
Revelation from God.
Okay, cool. Do you have this revelation from God?
I do.
Cool. Connor Prosser, the prophet. Got it. So one of the biggest things I think where it does fall apart is, so the moral system ultimately everybody gets the same result at the end, because there is no ultimate punishment. Somebody could go from ground zero all the way to living in paradise. Somebody if they change. So somebody could theoretically be Hitler, go to the afterlife, change, and make it to paradise.
Yes.
Okay. So how can we say
he would be punished first, though? Like, I don't want you to misrepresent too much. Like, Hitler would not face consequences. He would face consequences, and he would have to be separated from a long period of time. But he would have the ability to change, because people can change. People can come back.
Okay. So what does this punishment look like?
So it's kind of just like a medium. It's not like torment, like I said earlier. It's kind of like just a feeling of emptiness. And you're missing out, basically, is the huge point. You're missing out on being with perfectness, being with paradise and omnibenevolent. And so.
Okay, but they do get to live with the anticipation that one day they'll be redeemed.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So in this sense, I feel like it's still, you still have a hard time being able to tell somebody that they should live a certain way, given that they're going to be able to redeem at some point. Even the anticipation period could be good. If it sticks with typical human psychology, anticipation does often increase pleasure. So that waiting period could potentially be pleasurable.
Except it won't be, though.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
It's just, it can't be pleasurable. It's a feeling of emptiness that I'm just using arguments that like heaven and hell uses. It'll give you that feeling of emptiness that you won't feel pleasure. You'll feel like you're missing out, and you have the free will to have your beliefs and to desire different things. But it will be a negative feeling for sure.
Okay. But so at the very best, if like
give me 1 second, I just got to put my phone on the charger. Full screen just turned dark. All right, there we go. Go ahead.
I think you can see why I would say that at the very best, this seems like a very mellow. At the best, God has a very strong suggestion. You better do something.
Sorry, what's that?
It sounds like at the very best, it seems like God has the goddess has a really strong suggestion that you probably should do it this way. Like it'll be temporary, and someday you can be with me if you want. But that doesn't give me any kind of like moral imperative necessarily, because somebody
tells you what's right and wrong, right? She tells you there are moral absolutes, and this is what you should do. And if you don't do them, you'll face consequences. But I'm not going to force you to do them because you have free will. I think that's something Christianity has too. But the consequences, the main part about my religion is they give you a chance to come back, and they're not overkill.
Okay.
I have my whole thing, and I'm not going to go into this too much because then I'll become an atheist again. But my whole problem against Christianity, I guess this isn't too much of an atheist perspective, is that as eternal suffering. That's my issue. Is I have a whole structured argument I have for it. I think eternal suffering is infinitely unjust for any crime. But so with my worldview is you have a chance to come back. This is kind of like a weird thing I'm going to tell you. There's an episode on, I don't know if you watched The Walking Dead.
I haven't gotten too far into it.
Yeah, there's an episode in season 6, episode 4. It's titled "Here's Not Here."
Wow, nerd.
I'm a total nerd. I know every single episode in all 10 seasons. I'm watching the whole series again with my dad right now. We're about to watch 3 in an hour.
I can just imagine that like our kids will see us talking about things like Walking Dead, like we see people talking about Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember back in the day when on season 4, episode 55,
when we went to the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so there's this episode in The Walking Dead. I'd like you to check it out if you can. It's only like 45 minutes long. maybe an hour.
Okay.
It's titled "Here's Not Here," and you don't have to know the plot line or anything. It's you can be completely ignorant to the plot line and still get something out of it. The premise of the episode, it's very deep and powerful, and it moved me my junior year. So I dealt with a lot of stuff, like a lot of shit went on in my life my sophomore year. I was very aggressive. I had thoughts of harming others, and I watched this episode, and it changed my life. It is the idea that all life is precious, and it gives us the idea that people can come back, people can change, and it gives the general rule that killing is wrong no matter what the circumstances is. Killing is wrong because people can come back, and I just think the episode is beautiful. It's well produced. It's comes from the philosophy of Aikido, which is a martial arts. The art of peace. It's like the most peaceful practice, one of the most peaceful in the world. Yeah, and it just really moved me, and that's kind of what arcs a lot of my religion, is that idea that all life is precious and everything gets a return and people can come back, people can change. And my religion gives people a chance to do that. There are still consequences for your actions. So even if you've changed, you still have to wait out your sentence before you can come back.
Okay.
But it gives people the ability to change. You're not just stuck in hell forever. You're not stuck. You know what I mean? Because of your past mistakes. And God still encourages you to do good on earth. But it's not fatal. It's not permanent if you mess up, because people can come back.
Right.
He gives a second chance.
Yeah. So I think, again, that's where I come back to. I won't press it because I want to learn more about this. Is that non-fatality of it makes all things arbitrary. But let's continue. Okay. So is killing always wrong?
In my religion, it is, yes.
Okay.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the trolley and that whole dilemma. So a lot of these problems are impossible for any of us to answer, but my God knows the answer. And she tells us when we can preserve life, whenever we can, when you don't have a choice, when you have a choice, don't kill. Sometimes we don't have a choice, but when there's a choice, don't kill. And that's kind of the same premise in that episode either.
Okay. And one thing I forgot to ask. So tell me about free will. What kind of free will are we talking about here? So
free will isn't the ability, if I want to go fly and I can't, I don't have free will. It's like the desire you have. It's the ability to think, to be able to will something. If you can't will something, then you don't have free will.
Okay. So I mean, just for
and a lot of atheists will attack Christianity for like not having free will. I find a lot of those arguments compelling, but I don't really go into that. To me, it's just not really relevant.
I think it's a problem no matter what.
Yeah,
I'm a Calvinist, so I think that all things are predetermined.
You believe in determinism?
Not in the way that you'd probably define it, but I think that all things are determined. Like I think that human agency is important, and I think that it does factor in, but it's not the determining factor. But let's I know you have some stuff to say about that, but let's get into that later. So it is more of a open free will. If you can will it, you can do it. As long as it's logically possible, physically doable.
And that's why I don't attack Christians for the idea that God lets people murder people and kill people and stuff, because I actually concur to the free will defense. I don't argue with the Christian free will defense. I think it actually works. I think you have to have free will if you're going to have a relationship with God. So I don't fault the Christian God for allowing people to murder people.
So
I do fault him for allowing natural disasters and things like that to happen. But
is this God omniscient?
My God or your God?
Your God.
Yes.
Okay, so given omniscience, how can free will exist? Because if God knows all things.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like I don't really go into that, because he knows what we're going to do, but we still can will to do it. So he knows what we're going to choose to do, right?
Okay.
We can still will. A fun example of this is when people bring up like a football game. If you record a football game, do the football players, when you're watching the recording, can they do something else, right? And they can't. But I think that would be the same problem for both of us. So I don't think it's, if the two religions are facing each other, I don't think it's like a fatal kind of thing, because we'd both be faced with the same kind of issue.
It's similar, but not quite. I'm a 5-pointer Calvinist, so there are some definite distinctions. I don't think about time as like that. That's kind of the corridors of time. If God saw down the corridors of time, He's choosing who does such and such because it's already been seen.
Well, what's worse with the Christian worldview is that He has a plan. He has like a divine plan, so that hurts free will more than Him knowing about it.
I don't hold to that kind of free will.
Yeah. So I kind of cut you off a little bit there. What were you about to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That's good enough for now. So all living things, like down to the cellular level, are equal.
All life is precious.
All life is precious. Is there a distinction? Is there a categorical distinction between these?
Like value of life?
Mm-hmm.
There is not.
Okay, so a cell is just as important as human.
Yes.
Okay, so if I slap my wrist just because there was a bug there, miss the bug, kill some cells, am I guilty of it?
All life is precious in my religion.
Okay. So not getting much beyond that?
No.
Okay, so if somebody had to kill to survive, in terms of hunting,
killing to survive is it. Like I said, it's when you don't have a choice that killing is permitted. You're supposed to not kill when you have a choice.
Okay, so how is eating a vegetable different than eating an animal?
That's a good point. So you don't have a choice. You have to choose something, right? So yeah, I guess there would be a little differentiated value in level of consciousness, but essentially all life is given the same chance to live in its best virtuous state, right? So if you have a choice to eat a vegetable or an animal, you raise a really good point there, right? So because both of them are like considered life in a way. Although a vegetable, I'm not really good with this topic, but a vegetable isn't considered. The plant is more life than the vegetable. The vegetable, right? Like the vegetable is kind of like a limb. I could be wrong there, but
I get you. So eating a fruit is not as bad as cutting down a tree per se.
Yeah, like the tree would be the life. The fruit would be kind of like the fingernail. You know what I mean?
Living off fingernails.
Yeah.
So veganism would be the preferred lifestyle.
And just to be clear, this is something I have cognitive dissonance with in my life, because I was a vegetarian for about a year and a half, and I want to be a vegan, and I'm not a vegan. I believe that being a vegan is the right thing to do. And this is where I face some cognitive dissonance, because I haven't been able to find like a right meal plan. So I'm currently not a vegan, but I recognize that I need to be. I should be a vegan. And like I acknowledge when I eat meat, I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing, right? And not just because animals are killed, but it's factory farming. That's a whole different topic. But
sure.
I think that to kill life is to go against what my God has, and all life is precious. To eat life is indulging in that action.
Cool. And just as a side note, Joel Furman is my favorite dietary writer. He typically writes vegan meals, which I'm not a vegan either, but it is my goal dietary.
It's so hard to go vegan.
It is.
Because there's so much milk everywhere, and
yeah,
everything has cheese in it. Everything.
But the book is called Eat to Live, if you're into that kind of thing. That's my goal for dietary discipline anyway. So all living things are equal. especially animals and humans, right? So, okay, I'll leave that one for now.
To be fair, I would like to point out an objection to my religion, just to be transparent here. So, like I said, the amount of suffering on Earth determines how much you're in paradise in the afterlife. It determines how much of that fulfilling sensation you have, right? Because of the meal analogy I gave earlier. So, an objection to my religion would be that not all life would experience the same replenishment. Not all, it would be unequal. So that to me is just one of the objections that I'm trying to figure out. But I kind of raised it myself. I was looking at it and I was like, what am I gonna do about this?
Cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was wondering about you can, when you wrote they can come and go as you please. So I wrote down the good place in question mark.
Yeah, well, not as you please, but the good place. Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah,
I haven't watched the latest season, but
oh gotcha. I'm sorry, I probably spoiled a little bit. Then.
Don't spoil anything too much. Okay, what is there? 3 seasons? 4?
I think they went to a 5th.
Oh, I've only watched the first 2, so.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more. So I won't say any more. I won't say any more then. I don't want to give too much of it away.
Hilarious though.
Yeah. So the last bits that I have, I'll just kind of do a escaping, like a broad critique. Let you have some final words, and then like I said, we'll do a follow up later, and just kind of have fun with it. So. Obviously, I think one of the biggest ones is that there is no objective revelation. And I think that is critical here, just because there is nothing that I can hold in my hands and read.
Well, I would say, oh, you mean like a book,
right?
Well, what if I was to write it in a book?
That would be interesting, and I'd be very eager to read it. It would have to be written in such a way that it was meant to be objective, infallible revelation.
Well, like I can make objective facts, like what my God wants, what is right and wrong, and I can use divine command theory.
So it would still have to be written in such a way that is you as acting as a prophet, saying, "Thus saith the goddess." This word is infallible, because if you don't have an infallible revelation, then that's again where I'd say knowledge is impossible.
So how are you defining infallible? Like, are you talking about grammar or?
No, I'm talking about the content of the book needs to be inspired revelation. So
how do we determine that a book is inspired revelation? So like my point is that like the words in my book aren't any less demonstrable than the words in your book. And we could go into you can go into historical accounts and manuscripts, but then you know what we're doing then? We are no longer in presuppositional arguments. We've left the realm of presuppositionalism at that point, and we've gone into historical arguments and scripture.
I actually disagree, but I don't want to get too much into that. But just broadly saying, one of the biggest problems is that we don't have anything in our hands that we can hold to do an internal analysis, because it's the internal analysis that is more important, I think, at this point. But let's just pretend for a moment that that's not an issue. Sorry, go ahead.
So all right, I'll just say this for the end. Never mind.
Okay. Is worship mandatory?
Is worship mandatory? Absolutely not.
Okay.
My God does not want to be worshipped. He wants us to understand her, or she wants us to understand her. That was a contradiction. She wants us to know who she is. She doesn't care if she loves us, if we love her. She doesn't care if we worship her. She wants us to be good, to better ourselves, and to understand what being perfect means.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So what is the purpose of our existence? Like, given that we live in an existence with pain, and why not just create us in the state where we can have the feeling of being replenished, not having had gone through all this turmoil?
So let me just rephrase, like, kind of to clarify what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking me why does God give us pleasure over pain?
No, why? Because you still have to hold to.
Like, are you asking why is pleasure better than pain?
No, I'm asking why are we here now? Why didn't she just create us in the afterlife?
Oh, like I said with the food analogy, you have to go through the suffering. And she just used Earth as that. She just used a natural reality to use that as the going through the whole day without eating.
And why not just create us right with that feeling though? Because if she's omnipotent, then why not just create us with that initial?
Because then that would kind of be like a free will violation, because it wouldn't be real. We wouldn't have real experiences that we were recovering from. She would just be putting it in our heads. It would be the same question: why can't God just make us all love Him, right? Why can't God just give us the feeling of love for Him? It wouldn't be real if she just gave us the feeling of replenishment. We would have to actually go through the suffering.
Okay. You have to?
Yes, because she says so. She has a reason for it. Who are we to question her?
Well, if worship isn't a prerogative, then like there's no single point to existence. But
I disagree.
I'll have to think a little bit more about this, how to word this, but I think this is going to be pretty fatal to this religion.
I disagree that there isn't a single point to existence. The point is to have complete paradise and pleasure, and for everyone to be perfect. Not to be perfect. Sorry, I got to correct myself there. To understand what it means to be perfect, to be omnibenevolent.
So you don't necessarily have to be perfect in the afterlife.
I don't think it's possible to be perfect. Only God can be absolute perfect. You can't be, if you have free will, you can't be perfect. I think we both agree on that. But sorry, if you disagree, you can say your piece.
No, I think I'll leave it there. It'll take a little bit more to think about how to respond to that.
But the point is for everyone to understand what it means to be perfect.
Okay. So I think this leaves open a wide margin for God not being the greatest conceivable being. So if free will exists in the way that you're describing it, we're not talking about an omniscient, omnipotent God, because this God is dependent on her creation to basically for reality to take form.
What do you mean by that? Because I would say she is omniscient and omnipotent.
So not if free will exists in the way that you're speaking, because if reality exists in a free, like a completely there's a better philosophical word for it, but like if free will is totally open, then God is dependent on, even though it's foreknowledge, it's still not the kind of foreknowledge that is actuating. Like it's not the driving force.
I wouldn't say she's dependent. I'd say she has the ability to interfere, and she's making a choice not to.
So for example, would you say that this God is love?
That this God is love?
Mm-hmm.
Love comes from this. Yes.
Okay. So it seems to me that in order for a God who is I'm guessing this God is one person, one being, unlike the Trinity, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So a God who is a total monad, when you're saying that God is love, how can God be love if God is dependent on her creation to be able to experience or do or have this love?
How is she love if she's dependent on her creation to have the love?
Mm-hmm. Because that means it's not inherent to the being of God in that sense.
Well, I'd say it is inherent. I'd say everything is her. She is. It's almost like pantheism.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
She is. She is one entity, and everything that exists has part of her in it.
So in that sense, since you're saying it's pantheism, so really,
it's not. I wouldn't call it pantheism, because kind of the general title of pantheism is that there isn't like a literal deity. It's kind of the sense that everything is God, but they don't believe in like an actual entity. You know what I mean? They think everything is. So my religion is kind of a little bit of both. It's a little bit of mixture between pantheism and general theism.
Okay,
but
so even still, so when somebody does something wrong, there's a part of her that is doing something wrong. When somebody's experiencing lack of God, it is her that is experiencing lack of God.
I see what you mean. So let me ask you this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And then you have some really difficulty with categoricals. So if God isn't everything, then there's no ontological separation. Like that gets really dicey at that point.
Right. So the questions you're raising, I think, are a problem for the existence of God. I don't think so. Actually, I think you're arguing for atheism right now. The questions you're raising are problems for God in general. They're not. There would be problems that if I was a theist who believed in this God, we would both. These would be problems for both of us.
Not at all.
Can you explain how those aren't problems for Christianity?
Which one in particular?
Like how if someone does something wrong, and God is God everything in your religion? Is God everything, or is he?
There is an ontological separation between creature and creation, or sorry, creator and creation.
So he's not omnipresent then?
He is omnipresent, but that doesn't take away from the ontological separation.
So then something exists outside of him?
Outside of him in the sense that he is not a part of that being, but we exist inside of his, like, it's not a mind or anything like that. We actually exist. We're actually here, but we're not in the sense that like there isn't ontological separation in terms of our being, but we are still contingent on him for existence.
So what I'm going to do, since I'm just making up this religion, I'm just going to apply what you just said to my God.
So then it wouldn't be pantheism then, like, so you wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm just making parts of this religion. I'm just making up on the fly, right?
Yeah.
So I've constructed like a foundational part of it, but a lot of it I've just kind of made up in this conversation. Because it's a pretend religion, I can do that.
Yeah,
so
yeah, sure.
We'll just add what you just said to my religion.
We're world building. Okay, well, I'll leave it there for now.
So whatever you necessitate presuppositional arguments to be, whatever you say is required. Since I'm making up a religion, what I can do is I can just say, okay, I'll use that too.
Like the Bible?
I wouldn't. You would have to demonstrate why the Bible is required for presuppositionalism.
the Bible
presuppositionalism accounts for transcendental arguments, like transcendental facts of reality. I wouldn't argue the Bible is like kind of scripture. It's not presuppositionalism, but
presuppositionalism fundamentally depends on scripture at its very basis.
Right, but I wouldn't argue that it's dependent on the Bible. I wouldn't argue that like the Bible is the separating force of why someone else can't use the same arguments. But that's kind of like the general whole topic of what we're talking about. Like,
if I would say that at least what you need is an infallible revelatory religion that is written in a book. So
why does it have to be in a book?
Well, I mean, you could theoretically have something else. I think that problems with infallibility, I think, it get exasperated if you want it to be on like a piece of technology.
Well, why can't it be in my head?
Then it's non-communicable. I mean,
I can communicate it, right? I can tell you what's in my head. I can take what's in my head and go transfer it through my mouth.
Sure. How are you going to get like? So writing is important for the non-changingness of a particular belief.
So then I can just write it down then and fix that problem.
Sure, but then you would have to be claiming simultaneously, which for the sake of the conversation, we're just saying that's something that you will do or are going to do. You're like Muhammad before the creation of the Quran. Yeah. Oh man, I'm getting calls. Yeah. Joe Smith.
Joseph Smith. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so I think it stands that as your deity stands, it can't fulfill the greatest possible being because of the judgment is non-final. So let me just kind of.
I think we just have a fundamental disagreement there.
Quite possibly. So, and I would say this argument sweeps across all categorical thought. So if you don't have a foundation for morals, then you don't have a foundation for logic, science, and beauty, because you have to be able to say that one is better than the other. The only one that is able to do that is morality, because I would need to say that a intentional or a non-intentional use of illogical thinking right. is actually immoral. So if I was actually asserting that 1 + 1 = 3, that would be a sin. That would be amoral. I think with the way that your religion stands right now, you're having a really difficult time trying to explain like the necessity for laws of induction science and why should things be beautiful and why should things be logical.
I don't have trouble explaining it any more than you can. I mean, my God created them in the same way that your God created them. The laws of the transcendental facts of reality. She made them the way they are, just like Yahweh did, right?
Well, I would say they're not created. They're inherent to the being of God.
So what do you mean? Oh, like they're already in God. Okay. Yeah. So my God would have that same application.
But what I'm saying is that the way that you're a big problem is the way that you're describing the afterlife. Because if it's kind of wishy-washy like that, then how can you convince somebody?
I wouldn't use wishy-washy, but
okay. If it's a non-terminal event, if it's not final, then how are we getting things like logical absolutes? Because I need to be able to necessitate the use of logic. I need to be able to necessitate because it's a moral argument when you start saying you need to use logic, you need to use science, things should be beautiful. Those are all morally based arguments that are like. Sorry, I'll leave it there. I'll let you kind of say your final piece because we're getting over an hour now, and then we'll leave it there.
So just to address that, are you? It sounds like you're saying that because things aren't eternal, which the afterlife is eternal in my religion. If you want it to be, you can choose to opt out. You have a choice, but
which everyone will at some point, by the way.
Sure, and that's their choice. I personally would not want to be conscious forever. That sounds exhausting. I would not want to be conscious for eternity, let alone suffer for eternity. I'd rather be tortured for 60 straight years on Earth than have a headache for eternity. And I have a whole argument for that, but we're not going to go into that today.
Fair enough.
But it sounds like you're saying that my religion can't account for transcendental facts of reality if the afterlife isn't eternal. I don't see how that follows.
They might be able to account for them, but they're very flimsy.
I don't see how if that depends on an eternal afterlife. I don't see how they're correlated.
Okay, I'll leave it there for now, just so we're not belaboring the issue. I'm curious to listen back to this conversation and get a little bit more acquainted with this.
Next time we talk, I'd like you to tell me more about why Christianity is the only religion where presuppositionalism like works.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the main topic I wanted to get into, and we didn't get too much into it. But
yeah,
so I definitely love to do this again. So
yeah, definitely. I'll say it in short. Christianity is the only one, and I'm not any sort of authority on this topic. I just really like presuppositional apologetics.
Me not so much.
What's that?
I said me not so much.
Fair enough.
I kind of find them just to be a little tedious and annoying.
That's our goal, man. That's what we love to do. We just want to be annoying.
Are you familiar with Cy Ten Bergen, Kate?
I am, yeah.
Oh God. And I know I talk to a lot of precepts, and they don't like him because he gives you guys a bad name. But
I personally like him. I'm actually trying to get him on the show, so we'll see.
Oh God, he's he had a fun debate with Matt Delahunty.
He did.
That was very stressful to watch.
It was.
Do you know that to be true? Do you know that to be true? Everything you would say.
Yeah. I don't think he is the best debater, or he doesn't necessarily make the most philosophically persuasive arguments, but I do think that he's got the. Oh, sorry, a lot more has come through. I think all the elements of what needs to be said he's saying, and he's just really he's annoying about it, and I kind of like that.
Yeah. He got kicked out of a podcast once.
I don't doubt it. So in short, the impossibility of the contrary, again, we're talking about the foundation for transcendentals, logical necessities and all that. Mm-hmm. So scripture is necessitated. Having an infallible revelation from God is the only way that we're able to get there. I'm not defending that right now, but that's what I'm asserting. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can.
I'm not going to go into my responses now because
I don't think any other religion is able to account for those. I think the only ones that come close, and I think that these religions have a better starting point than atheism. I think Islam comes closer, and I definitely think Judaism obviously comes closer. Abrahamic religions. I don't think that you can really make a case for
polytheism.
Polytheism, you have a hard time because it's basically the same issue. It's basically atheism. You just have there's nothing to have a starting point. Like you have no way to make categorical decisions because if there are multiple gods, well, who's to say who is the authority? Mm-hmm. Just like us, like we have a different opinion. Well, who's right? There has to be a reality in which things are objective in order for us to have this dialogue.
It would be that same problem of subjectivity in polytheism.
Yeah, and I think the same thing for pantheism. Buddhism is just Buddhism. I mean,
they're atheistic, but
yeah. So I really think it really just boils down to those three. I mean, you can include Mormonism and well, Mormonism is polytheistic as well, more so than any other religion.
And Christianity is a soft monotheism because of the Trinity. It's not hard monotheism.
I hardcore disagree. No, God, distinction between being in person, but I know what it's. We don't worship a monad God, but you could make a really strong argument that neither does Islam, and they just don't know it. But anyway, that's in short where I would go to. We'd probably need another 5 hours plus to hash it out. But it boils down to having the revelation. Because to a degree, I think you're right. Like I don't think that you can go without revelation, starting point A to Christianity. I don't think that this starting point exists. Mm-hmm. So you're right in a sense. Like if you just start with some arbitrary baseline to somewhere, I mean, in one sense, you could say that the best you would get is deism. But the problem is, unless you start, the question is what's before the starting point that gives rise to any starting point. And there, in atheism and in polytheism and these sort of non-Abrahamic religion, there is no actual starting point to even begin to start to reason upward.
Not sure if I agree with that, but I'm also not sure I fully understand what you're trying to say. So
okay. I'm not always the most understandable. My wife can attest to that.
And I'm not always the most understanding. So
yeah, fair enough. Cool, man. Well, I really liked talking to you. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah, this was awesome. I enjoyed the civil dialogue. So
yeah, it needs to happen more, I think. So yeah, well, guys, go check out Connor Prosser for some heretical TikToks. And
I got a new video dropping in about 20 minutes. So
right on. Cool.
I filmed it last night.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I'll be waiting for it.
All right.
All right. I'm going to put this on. This will be on our Facebook and on our YouTube. I'll send you the YouTube link so you can take a look at that. I don't intend splicing any of this, so that way people have to watch it in its fullness. So, yeah, so they can listen to this long, awesome conversation.
Awesome. You're going to send me a link of it?
Yep, I will.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you for jumping on to X Garage. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Peace out.